Without this, you would starve. Almost everything you ate yesterday, are eating today, and will eat tomorrow came from the ground. Your meals and snacks are made from ingredients that either
Grew out of the earth,
or
ate other food that grew out of the earth.
without the soil,
Your refrigerator and cupboards would be practically empty. However, only a fraction of the Earth's surface has the soil that can grow the food we need for survival.
To illustrate this more clearly, consider the number of people alive in your life you know personally by name, possibly 600. Let's say that these 600 people represent the entirety of the Earth's surface. In that case, 426 of them represent areas of the planet covered by water. Of the 174 people remaining who represent land, 116 are swamps, deserts, Arctic regions, mountainous areas,
Urban cities and other areas unsuitable for agriculture. Of the 58 people left to represent agricultural land,
40 are used exclusively for pasturing livestock.
the remaining 18 represent the amount of land on the entire Earth's surface available for the cultivation of food. And almost half of this is fed to livestock, utilized for clothing or converted into biofuels.
Out of 600 people, 10 are left. Oh, and those were the numbers from 5 years ago. Maybe in another 5 years you'll lose one more.
This fraction of the Earth's surface will bear the burden of growing all the food for our increasing population of 8 billion people. You may now be wondering, why is there such a small amount of this land? And why is it disappearing? If you live in the Central Valley of California, the answer to the first question can be found by looking outside your window. You may take this view for granted if you live here, but what you may not realize is that the rich soil, humidity, temperature, and water supply from the Sierra snowmelt help make this 20,000 square mile valley one of the most fertile growing regions in the world.
It's not just the best farmland, it's also the best farmers, the best processors, the best transportation system, the best marketing systems, the best delivery systems.
We produce a quarter of the nation's food supply. We can grow over 250 different crops here in the Central Valley.
This $17 billion ag industry provides our nation's families the greatest variety of fresh, healthy food at the lowest prices in the world. You may not realize this when walking through the grocery store, but the variety, abundance, freshness, and low prices are only made possible by the factors that come together right where we live. Which brings us to the next question. If this resource is so valuable, why is it disappearing? The answer can be found in this story. Until the 1960s, the most fertile and abundant agricultural land in the nation was none other than the Los Angeles Basin.
But now it's very much urbanized. Farms were replaced by industrialization, and it turned into a major city.
As urban areas grew, they expanded into the surrounding agricultural lands. To provide water, sewer, roads, and other services to sprawling neighborhoods, it costs local governments and taxpayers more and more. So after rezoning some of the most arable land on the planet for residential, commercial, and industrial purposes, these areas now have some of the highest housing and living costs, along with some of the most congested roads in the nation. It is now the most populated center of sprawling urbanization on the West Coast. The story is repeating itself in other parts of the valley.
40,000 acres are lost every year to conversion to other uses.
In 1963, California state legislators created a Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, for each county. The commission's purpose was to study the misuse of land resources and the growing complexity of local governmental jurisdictions. The role of LAFCO was to slow the conversion of farmland and open space and support sustainable communities. The LAFCO commissioners do this by approving, not approving, or amending urban expansion requests by incorporated cities, basically telling cities when and where they are permitted to build. They can encourage protection of farmland where crops grow best and encourage development in areas with lesser soils. Commission members are the local officials we elect to serve on city councils and the county board of supervisors. One commissioner is an appointed public member. Our elected officials will prioritize farmland preservation if voters do. And though most voters care about farmland preservation, both they and elected officials often have other priorities. The end result is the gradual disappearance of the best agricultural lands, all approved by the only government agency specifically tasked with protecting farmland, LAFCO.
Losing the LA basin, the Silicon Valley to all urbanization is really a significant loss to California agriculture, to the economy of California, and to our number one status as a viable agricultural state.
Fortunately, there are communities and cities in California using a variety of other methods to help protect their farmland. In Stanislaus County, the Agriculture Mitigation Policy protects 1 acre of farmland for every acre converted to housing. This 1-to-1 farmland mitigation requirement means that for every acre to be converted from an agricultural use to a housing development use, the developer pays a fee to restrict development on another acre of farmland. The land that is restricted from development is called an agricultural conservation easement.
Counties north and south of us have been successful in preserving thousands of acres. Stanislaus County, on the other hand, has only preserved about 300.
Mitigation is one of those elements that I think is a useful tool, but it should be the one of the last resort. It's still a net loss at the end of the day.
Another standard set in the Stanislaus County Agricultural Preservation Policy is the use of urban growth boundaries, also called urban limit lines. There are 12 counties and 48 cities that have used them in California. Urban limit lines put a limit on how far the city can expand. By encouraging controlled growth, communities can minimize or avoid the problems that arise from rezoning ag land, maintain the efficient use of resources, and lower transportation and public service costs.
Building up instead of out is going to be really important as we look towards the next 20 years and beyond to ensure that our Central Valley can remain to be the food production engine that it is. When protecting farmland, we need to think about it in a long-term strategy, but it's also just not one specific answer that's needed. It's a comprehensive plan that should be required.
But from a standpoint of having a plan that's on the books and says, this is what we're going to do long-term for ag, there isn't any.
We need to bring awareness to those counties and cities that are not doing a very good job at their land use planning efforts, because you do have areas of the state that ignore that they have any responsibility to protect farmland. I think there's a unique balance that needs to happen, and that they shouldn't be out just to pave over every square inch of their city.
So a permanent, adaptable, statewide, comprehensive, balanced plan is needed. There are things you can do right now to help. You can follow and join the Farmland Working Group to stay updated and help educate the community through conversation, social media, and other awareness campaigns.
Whether you put it into law or not, the public, the citizens, can direct their representatives not to build in a certain area. We do that all the time.
So even if you aren't old enough to vote, you can educate those who are about electing candidates who take a clear position on protecting farmland. Remember, local elections are held every year, and candidates will care about what voters care about. And because they're local, they're reachable. They respond when you contact them. All the victories and successes happening throughout the valley all happen because of the awareness and efforts of private citizens like you. Through awareness, action, and cooperation, we can promote smart urban growth and protect our agricultural foundation.
Every person can make an impact by just being involved. We can all contribute something.